Hey guys, it's Joy's Point of View. I'm Christian and I watch Scavenger Reign. Scavenger Reign is a show created by Joseph Bennett and Charles Hugh Wetner. Hugh Wetner. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. It's an HBO show that was unfortunately cancelled because it didn't receive that much views, therefore didn't make that much money, despite it being an awesome show. Highly recommend. This video, I will provide a summary, the things that I didn't like, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like. So you know the drill. There will be spoilers, obviously, in this video. You have been warned. So let's go start with the summary. So what is Scavenger Reign? Scavenger Reign is a series about a group of space explorers that are trapped in this alien planet, that they see themselves trapped in this alien planet called Vesta, where they're in discarded places, where they try to survive in this planet up until a rescue ship that crashed from this planet known as a Demeter. So they try to, despite being in separate places, they share the same goal, reaching the Demeter and getting the fuck out of Vesta. So, yeah, that's what this show is about. What I love about this show is how it tells storytelling through showing. It does the show don't tell very, very well, and it does it in a way that doesn't feel confusing. And at the same time, you are allowed to have open interpretations at some of the things that happen in the show. For example, when Ursula and the first scene that we see, the first explorers that we are introduced to in the series, Ursula and Sam, we see them trying to get these electric parts from a creature, but this creature is residing in this toxic environment that is not breathable. So they had to use these squid-like creatures to stuff in their nose. It serves as their oxygen, as their mask. The show doesn't they don't let the characters tell you that this is a mask, or they write descriptions in the screen to tell you what type of creature it is. No, they trust the audience enough to attach meaning to what they watch, to attach meaning to what they see. Unfortunately, anime is guilty of telling most of the time than showing, except Utena, but I don't like Utena because it did it in a confusing way as possible. I love that this show doesn't tell you that the reason they need this is because it's a toxic environment. And guess what? When Ursula lost her mask, the squid mask, we see her having this trippy, hallucinating vision of this monster self, and then afterwards we see her waking up fine, coughing black smoke. It tells us that the show shows us, it doesn't tell us. It shows us that she was hallucinating, that the side effects of breathing that environment is that you hallucinate. You have this drug, trippy, hallucinate. In the same episode, we see this black and white creature that is a telepath. We see that this creature uses some sort of nostalgia memories to lure its slaves, because that's what it does. It wants slaves to feed it food constantly. So this is where we are introduced to our second lost explorer named Cayman, where we see this creature using Cayman's memories towards its advantage in order to manipulate Cayman, where we see him using Cayman's um, memories specifically of his lost wife, Fiona, who plays an important role in Cayman specifically. She's not a character, she's a plot device, but an important plot device. So we see that it uses sort of Fiona's memories and also Fiona's voice, I think, to communicate with Cayman, because that's how I interpreted it in me personally. Of course, that's what art does. Art is supposed to be open to interpretation, and Scavenger Reign is a work of art. So to me, when they showed us these memories of Fiona talking and this creature using its telepathic powers to communicate with Cayman through these memories, that's how I interpreted it. That this creature uses its telepathic powers to communicate with its slaves using that slave's memories in order to do what it wants. And then we see something weird, but I'm gonna talk about that later when Cayman gets attached to the creature, like physically attached, but I'm gonna get to that later. In the second episode, we see this like um killer storm where if you walk in it, you die immediately. So we see again Ursula and Sam trying to escape the storm from a creature. They briefly tell us that this creature is protecting its eggs, as we see it suck in these organic eggs looking egg-like creatures. So it does tell us some minor things. It doesn't do it constantly in an annoying way. It does tell us like that thing was protecting its young, but what it shows us is that the young are also prey to the crab-like creatures, where we see these crab-like creatures during the storm, that they can survive in the storm because of the shells, and they prey upon the eggs, specifically the blood of the babies of that creature, and not just the eggs as well, but any blood of any organic life, because after it turned to Sam, it tried to kill Sam. Now, what I love about that scene is that it shows us how this creature defends itself, especially when its prey starts to become smart, such as when Sam started to whip out his knife to defend himself. The creature used its sonic power to make Sam deaf and kind of a bit brain dead so that it could suck his blood thoroughly. We learned that this is a trick that this creature does when its prey starts to become smart. This is how it intimidates its prey, just like how a predator intimidates its prey once its prey starts to be smarter than the predator. So that's why I appreciate it so much. And then when now, what I'm gonna be talking about now is the characters. I'm gonna talk about the characters. So, the characters in the show are Cayman, Fiona, Uzi, Sam, Ursula, and Levi. Again, Fiona is not really a character, she's more of a plot device towards Cayman, but she does serve an important role. Let me start with Sam. Sam is a character that, well, from the get go, we knew that he always wanted to leave Vesta. He wanted to get out of Vesta, far, far away from Vesta as possible. But we didn't know how was he going to leave. But here's the thing, this show did again show don't tell. Even when Sam was about to die, it dropped foreshadowing through showing. When Sam was having this trippy dream after he was stung by the creature that sucks his blood, and then he sees a creature, a skull. He's trapped in a desert, and he sees this giant skull upon him. So in the previous episode, he talked about his friend who saw a skull, and then afterwards he died a few weeks later, or a few months later, and then now he's having the same omen happening to him. So I love that they did that. I love that they showed his foreshadowing through showing. They foreshadowed Sam's death through showing. And then, which leads me to talk about Ursula. Ursula, she was always I think the show did foreshadow that she will stay in Vesta when it foreshadowed Ursula being drawn in that gray hedge when she saw that creature coming out of that cube thing on that gray cube, and she saw this creature giving life to the hedge as it was breathing, and when the creature was breathing, the gray hedge was also breathing. Ursula was also in tune with that breathing. She was even moved by that. To me, I interpret that as foreshadowing that Ursula might stay invested because she seems invested in this planet. So yeah, I also love that they foreshadowed that, and it was heartbreaking to see her and Sam depart ways. And I do love the growth that Ursula had, where she ended up valuing Sam, where she ended up loving Sam, not romantically, but ended up loving him as a friend, because before she thought she could do this on her own. But when Sam's about to die and Sam finally trusting Ursula, Ursula is resistant to accept her, is resistant to do this on her own because she finally sees the importance of Sam. And then, next character that I will be talking about is Cayman. A lot of people might interpret Cayman as a villain. I did not. I just interpreted him as a tragic guy. I don't think this show specifically has villains, and And I love it for it. It actually lets its characters be human. They make mistakes that are understandable. For example, we learn that Cayman is the reason why everyone is stranded in Vesta. And we understand why, because the guy was already in a failing marriage. He wanted to save his marriage, but the problem is that he didn't really prioritize his wife that much because he was kind of unhappy. And he also did what he did to save himself from his job because he was about to get fired. But the consequence of his actions is that he ended up putting everyone at risk, including his own wife. Now, the memories of his wife were the only thing that was keeping him sane in Vesta because from the very first episode, we were foreshadowed that he's mentally ill in a way. He's starting to develop a mental illness. He's not doing okay when he was laughing hysterically at the first opening when we meet him in the first episode. So when he finally realized that his wife died in episode 5, when we're introduced to a new explorer who's lost in Vesta, he goes by Charlie, I think. When that black and white creature killed Charlie and it had a face of Fiona, that was a realization where I came and realized that his wife is dead. And that's when he finally snapped. That's when he finally snapped because his memories of his wives were the only thing that kept him going, were the only thing that kept him sane in Vesta. So when he realized that he died, his wife is dead, and it's because of him, he gave up. He just gave up because, again, his wife was the sole reason why he was sane. So after learning that she died, he gave up, and he even let the creature absorb him, which is the weird part I'm getting at. So when Cayman started to give up and the creature formed this slave bond with him, it started to absorb him inside. And then we see this cube attaching itself to Cayman's belly button, which serves as some sort of like umbilical cord, because when the creature eats, we are shown it transferring to food through Cayman's belly button. So I wanted to ask, what did that mean? Did that mean that the creature was somehow became Cayman in a way? Did it become Cayman? Did it share the same mind as Cayman? Because we see Cayman taking a role of a fetus and the black and white creature taking a role of a pregnant woman. So I was kind of confused by that. This is a weird show, by the way, but I love it, but it's weird. So I was confused by that. Does that mean that the creature became Cayman? Because if that's the case, it would make sense why that creature tried to kill him when it tried to kill, sorry. It would make sense why the black and white creature tried to kill Ozzy and Levi once it heard Levi's voice, because Levi's voice is a resemblance of Fiona, Cayman's wife. So it would make sense why that creature tried to kill them if Cayman became the black and white creature. And then now let me talk about Ozzy and Levi. I think that dynamic was definitely my favorite. So let me start with let me start with Levi. So Levi is this robot helper that's supposed to assist the explorers in their adventures. But from the very first episode, we see that Levi is acting strange because we we know that they have this bacteria inside them that said it's helping them in understanding this planet. But we see Levi acting weird, such as bearing Oz's ranch, which was a foreshadowing that Levi is not only acting out of programming, but they're transforming into something different. So Levi's arc is about having a life, a robot that has life. This was foreshadowed in one of the episodes when Levi starts dreaming, having a dreaming sequence where they look at the robot thing starting to have hands, and we see Levi's dream towards following Ozzy, but then Levi starts to become big and Ozzy's saying, I don't understand you, Levi, or something in that dream, which to me it feels like a foreshadowing towards Levi starting to have a life, that Levi is going to have a robot, is going to have a life, it's going to gain sentient. Because when Ozzy started to perform sort of surgery towards Levi, we see Levi screaming. that a robot felt something, that they were flinching for the first time, when that we saw a robot flinching. It has feelings. So when even Ozzy asked what is going on, it was confusing even for her, not knowing that Levi is actually becoming a person. Not only that, but we see Levi getting mad when Ozzy operates Levi again and ask her not to do it again, not to shut them off again, because they want their voices to be heard. And speaking of Ozzy, her growth and Levi, I love their dynamic, because initially Ozzy did not appreciate Levi that much. She only saw Levi as this nuisance robot assistant that is super annoying. Even in the flashback, when she talks to Fiona, saying, she said, I don't know how you keep up with these things. So we know that Oz is annoyed by Levi's. As the show progresses, Levi slowly develops, slowly helps Ozzy, assist Ozzy in situations where Ozzy would be dead, because let's be honest, Ozzy would have died without Levi. So we see Ozzy finally gaining a friend, because we know in the flashback that Ozzy was sort of antisocial. When we see her talking to her girlfriend Mia, when Mia was inviting her to have a drink, but she said, I'll be there, when Mia said, okay, I know that means you won't, which is a sign that she's antisocial. But with Levi developing sentient, we see her having conversations with Levi. We see her gaining a friend with Levi, where she ended up respecting Levi. No longer seeing Levi as a robot, but seeing Levi as an individual. So I loved their friendship. Even when Levi died, she cried. Levi even made a distress call because she needed help, because that's how much Levi ended up meant to her. But unfortunately, she ended up attracting negative pirates. She ended up attracting space pirates that have their own ulterior motives, even though one of them ended up staying in Vesta and the other one ditched. So, now moving on, I am going to talk about my favorite images. Another thing that I forgot to mention about the parts that I liked about the show Don't Tell in Scavenger Reign, when Ozzy was infected on her skin, when she was attacked by puffballs. I loved that the show, when she was in a pool and then we see this fish eating that infected parts of her body. I love that the show trusts its audience that these fishes heal. It doesn't let the characters tell you that these fishes can heal. It actually trusts its audience to attach meaning that these fish eat that infected bacteria skin to heal Ozzy. Now let me talk about my favorite images. My favorite images was when Ozzy was working with the space pirates, and with this blue area-ish that felt like they were in an ocean. I loved that. It was so well drawn with the blue textures. It felt like they were in the ocean. I loved that. Was my favorite image. I loved that. It was so beautiful to watch. I understand why the background image won Emmys in the show. I understand, completely understand. Another image that I loved from the show was when I think Sam and us and Ursula, when they were walking in these canyons, the bird's eye view, when the canyons looked like cones. They looked like ice cream cones on top. I loved that. That was so beautiful. The brown textures were actually incredible to watch. I actually loved that. And when Levi was defeating the black and white creature that is telepathic, when it spewed its black goo to like lure its victims to enslave them permanently, when it spewed its goo on Levi, instead of making Levi a slave, it made Levi further connected to this world. After Levi was revived from life, it made Levi further understand this world of Vesta and how to attack this creature. I loved that sequence, that drag sequence of Vesta, the life of Vesta, how it was shown, that bumpy camera spin, those colors sparking through and through. This show is beautiful to watch. I will not get over that. This show is beautiful to watch. So yeah, that was my... Do I have any dislikes in this video, in this show? No. No, because this show, despite being slow paced, it doesn't feel slow. I don't know why, because it really does a perfect job at drawing you into the world. It doesn't feel slow paced at all, despite it being slow, but it's never boring. And you don't feel that pace. Instead, you see the show already over, and you are already engaged in the world. If that's not good writing, I don't know what is, because you see yourself already engaged in the world. Anyway, that's me. Those are my thoughts in Scavenger Reign. I loved it. Highly recommend it. You are missing out. Please save this show. This show deserves a second season. This show deserves a second season. The background design of the locations, marvelous job. You did a marvelous job. I love the Mob, and I also love the art style, the Mobius-esque art style. Love it, chef's kiss. Anyway, that's my video. If you liked my video, don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you will. It would do me wonders. Please subscribe, guys. Subscriptions are free. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.